Peace and welcome. Today we have our top 10 favorite themes by Yasunori Mitsuda, the king of sentimental beats. And if you wonder why I dubbed him that, just keep on watching. Be prepared for lots of piano, acoustic guitars, and a generally relaxing episode. Number 10. Front Mission Gun Hazard, Trial Zone. Up first, we have a Super Nintendo game that was released in 1996. Gun Hazard is the first action RPG of the Front Mission series, and it's similar to Metal Warriors and Assault Suit Vulcan. The soundtrack to this game has multiple composers, including Nobuo Uematsu. I believe it takes someone as skilled as Mitsuda to be on the same soundtrack as someone as talented as Nobuo. You don't want to drop off in quality from track to track, and Mitsuda held up his end. There are a couple more composers on the soundtrack, but today is all about Mitsuda. The sound of this theme doesn't have the usual feel as his other work, but it's still really well made. The beginning of it gives off a real digital vibe, but as it continues, you can really hear that Super Nintendo sound. Number 9. Tsugunai Atonement, All is Redeemed. Our next up comes from the 2001 PlayStation 2 RPG developed by Cattle Call. Mitsuda is the lone composer on this game. A very smooth and relaxing theme, this will be a common trait that many of our themes share today. Mitsuda knows how to make a mellow beat, and you will probably notice that by the end of the list. The acoustic guitar blends well with the flute that eventually joins in. This is a theme that I could picture being played at a Renaissance festival. It has sort of an old school feel that fits the game. The game received mixed reviews from a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. But the one thing that really stands out is the soundtrack. Number 8. Xenosaga Episode 1, the opening theme. Up next, we have another RPG from the PlayStation 2. Released in 2002, this is another soundtrack that was composed entirely by Mitsuda. This game received generally positive reviews and sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Multiple soundtrack albums were released, first from Digicube and later through Mitsuda's own label, Sleigh Bells. Mitsuda worked both as composer and orchestrator. As opposed to most RPG scores at the time, Mitsuda collaborated with Tetsuya Takahashi, the game's director, to create tracks that were for specific scenes in the game rather than repeating tracks. The score was performed by the London Philharmonic Orchestra. I really like the slow tempo of the melody, as well as the instrument selection. I know I talk about instrument selection often, but that can make or break a theme in my opinion. As a producer and composer myself, there are moments I spend too much time looking for just the right instrument. But I think Mitsuda did a great job with this one. Number 7. The Seventh Seal, Resurrection of the Dark Lord, Rhythm of Red. Number 7 is, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, another RPG. Released in 2002, but it's not on the PlayStation 2. This is a PC game, developed and published by Softworld. Softworld is a Taiwanese game company, and Seventh Seal was only released in Taiwan and China. They wanted an English translation, but no deal was ever finalized. Now, when it comes to the soundtrack, besides the relaxing feel being a common trait today, I think pianos and acoustic guitars are as well. And this one may not have a piano, but there is an acoustic guitar, one of the defining sounds of a Mitsuda track. It's not the most relaxing beat on our list today, but it's definitely not all hyped up and is quite chill. Number 6. Tobal No. 1. Your Name Is. Up next, we have an underrated soundtrack in my opinion, which is quite amazing because if you look at the list of composers, you will see at least 2 of the all-time greats. I would put Yoko and Mitsuda in my all-time top 10. I don't want to say this is your typical Mitsuda track, because it's not. You do have a nice little bass line, a piano, a guitar, and it all makes for a smooth track with almost a jazzy feel. I would say it has a strong Mitsuda feel. He may use some of the same instruments, but it comes across with more of a jazzy feel than his usual tracks. I enjoy how the track jams along and the overall vibe, especially with that bass line. It's not the most intricate bass line, but it's all about the feel. Number 5. Xenogears, Bond of Sea and Flame. Xenogears was released in 1998 for the PlayStation 1, and of course, it's by Squaresoft and it's an RPG. That's just what Mitsuda does. Squaresoft PlayStation RPGs. So not only is it an RPG on the PlayStation made by Square, but of course it's smooth and relaxing. This song has all of his defining traits besides the instrument selection, and that's one reason why we love it. In my opinion, the flute is what tops it off and takes it to the next level. It would still be good without it, but with it, it's like the icing on the cake. The cake would still be edible and delicious, but is it really completed? The icing makes it sweet and completes the project. This is a fantastic theme that has a hint of nostalgia and the perfect amount of sentimental value. Number 4. Radical Dreamers, Day of Summer. So our unlucky number 4 spot comes from Radical Dreamers, a 1996 text-based adventure game by Square for the Satellaview, a satellite peripheral for the Super Famicom. The game forms part of the Chrono series, acting as a side story to the 1995 game Chrono Trigger. So I do gotta say, Square knows how to choose a great composer. Most of their RPGs have either Uematsu or Mitsuda. And if I'm making an RPG, these are two of my top selections. Them two, and I would throw in Yoko as well. For being on the 16-bit Nintendo, this theme has a really clean feel. It's something that I could picture in Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy. And that makes sense. Both of these are also RPGs by Square and on the 16-bit console. On a funny note, there is a small bit that almost reminds me of the James Bond theme. I know it's not exactly the same, but when I first heard it, I couldn't help but think of 007. Number 3. Shadow Hearts 2 Covenant, Town of Twilight. So our third spot today is of course another RPG and for the PlayStation 2, but this was not developed by Square. This was developed by Nautilus, a defunct company that was founded in 1997 by former members of none other than Squaresoft, so it's really of no surprise that they were looking to hire Mitsuda. A calming beat that is actually a bit somber. There are sections of the theme that remind me of some of his other work, but it's just little parts here and there. Besides that, you can still tell it's a Mitsuda track, and that's not a bad thing, it's quality music. It would be one thing if he made a bunch of bad tracks and that's how you could tell, but that's not the case. I really like relaxing and calming music, as you could probably tell from our last few videos, and that's one reason I like Mitsuda's music so much. And that's also why I think he is the king of sentimental music in video games. If you create a video game and want sentimental music, look no further than this composer here. Number 2. Chrono Trigger, Schala's theme. So our number 2 position is one of my all-time favorite themes from any game. Coming from Chrono Trigger, do I even have to say that it's an RPG developed by Square? Released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, this game is one of the best RPGs from the 16-bit era. I still own my copy to this day. So we have talked about this theme before, but what can I say? It has everything I want in a theme. I like it so much that I made a little remix and got a few friends on the song. I'm not a lyricist, but I do have many friends that are, so I will include that at the end during the credits if you want to listen. One thing I want to mention, there was a fan remake titled Chrono Trigger Resurrection, or Chrono Resurrection for short. It was discontinued after they received a cease and desist letter, but luckily you can still find some of the music online. So here is Schala's theme from the fan-made Chrono Trigger Resurrection game. And of course, we do have some honorable mentions. Number 1. Chrono Cross, Leaving the Body. Coming from the 1999 PlayStation 1 RPG developed and published by Square, would you expect anything else? The game shipped over 1.5 million copies worldwide, leading to a greatest hits re-release. Chrono Cross was also re-released for the PlayStation Network in Japan in July 2011 and North America 4 months later. Can't blame Square for hiring Mitsuda again and again to do the music in their RPGs. His music has a certain atmosphere that almost tells a story in itself. You combine this with the story-driven game and it just tops it off perfectly. This is one of the most soft and calming beats he has ever done. It doesn't use the typical Mitsuda instruments. You won't hear a classical piano and you won't hear an acoustic guitar, and that's exactly why I enjoy it so much. I like music with different instruments that you may not know exactly what instrument it is, but it's all about the sound it produces. I like string instruments such as harps and violins. This is a theme that I like from start to finish. So there you have our favorite Mitsuda themes, and I do gotta say, it's almost easier to pick a theme when you have never played the game because there is no attachment and there is no nostalgia. You can just turn on the soundtrack and give it a listen. But when you've already played the game, it's really difficult to turn down the themes that you already have an attachment to. That's one reason Schala's theme will always be near the top for me. Anyways, our next top 10 will be our favorite Yoko Kanno themes. We won't be talking about her work on anime, but only her body of work in video games. She didn't work on as many as Mitsuda, so it won't take as long to go through all of her songs, but with that being said, it will still be difficult because she is quite talented. There will not be that many songs that we do not like. Last but not least, shout out to our gold level patrons, Bearsona11, Quantum X, Chris Hayes, and Dimitri. I am ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.
I'ma give it to you real deal, so you can feel it's really real. Live from the killing fields, no it's not a film reel. Yes, what you feeling is real. Kids lost, thinking ill, letting them pill, chasing skrill. No will, no patience, trying to snatch the next man's meal. Cali crazy, they go LA to the Bay Shady. Babylon trying to slay me, and I pray me don't blast my 380. At the industry and every sucker that tried to play me, like pay mega push up daisies. Keep the babies out the streets, ladies. God, you ain't gotta save me. Just make sure my nieces and nephews